Hello there, sword fans. Today I have a special treat, and that is this sword right here. Now, this came in the mail unexpectedly today, and I shot this video despite being in a shit mood because it's been a shit day. But this was a bright light at the end of it, and it wasn't a train. It was an awesome sword, which was sent to me, and I didn't expect it. So I am happy, and I want to record this video. So hopefully my terse mood doesn't come through too much. I hope it doesn't, because this is an awesome sword, and it deserves some praise, which hopefully I'll be giving it. Now, one quick note before I go any further. This is owned by the Mystery Man in Black, who's done a number of the projects you've seen on my channel, and I've been pestering him about this sword for a number of years because of the attention the Zatoichi blade that I made some time ago, a project that I did many years ago, the attention that it got, and he had this sword that would be a perfect fit for a Zatoichi style blade. So I'd heckled him for years to do something. He did. He sent it to me to sell for him and to share with you. So hopefully you find it interesting. I think it's really cool, and I'm gonna talk about more of it now, because that's that's what the video's for. So what makes this special just isn't that the Mystery Man in Black did it, but that it is kind of American craftsmanship and modern materials, and kind of a closer historical tie to a sword cane from Japanese geometry and stuff like that than the Zatoichi blade is. It's a little different. I'll show you that. And I think it has the spirit and some of those ties. It makes a special project to me. I think it's really, really cool. On the outside, you can kind of, if I start from the top, it doesn't have a lot of the parts that you conventionally see. It's basically a glorified shirasaya, but or a plain wooden scabbard. At the end, though, you can see it's got some shape. There's like a gentle taper right here where your hand would rest. We've got the two Zatoichi slashes right here. There's some minor imperfections with the lacquer in here, at least from what I can tell, or maybe that's newspaper stuck in. The color is this deep red, orange, brown, well, more of a deep red brown kind of color here. And then we've got a Delrin Makugi peg right here. Delrin is, as far as I know, an artificial material that's supposed to be a little more sturdy than like a bamboo or something like that, and it's black and it meshes a little bit better. We can go down and we can see the seppa right here, which is separating the handle and the scabbard right here. It's the only thing that is the brace for the habaki up here, and it stands out a little bit, so it's not just a piece of wood slatted over the top. It has some identifying characteristic between the grip and the rest of the scabbard or the saya right here. That deep red color continues down. You can make out the wood grain a lot better in sunlight than you can in the light right here. And then we have a copper kojiri at the end, this little metal bit right here, which is done up in a rokusho kind of patina as well, giving it that really deep kind of zazzy orange color. One other bit to note, I mean, obviously I talked about little swells and things like that. The blade isn't completely straight. I don't know if you'd notice it exactly from the profile here. You can kind of sense that it has a little bit of a curve, but not really very much at all. It has some nice profile to the blade. It feels pretty sturdy and solid in the hand. It doesn't rattle around a lot. And that's one other actual feature about the sword that I really liked that was done. So the scabbard is a little bit, it binds basically, which would normally be something I would harp on if you were using the blade for iaido and you were drawing and practicing and doing kind of conventional Japanese swordsmanship with it. In this case, it's intentional because you don't want the sword to rattle around. You want it to kind of function as a cane potentially. And so it takes not a lot. If I pull the sword apart, it comes apart easy enough. But basically, you can kind of see right above the habaki, it starts to bind a little bit, and it doesn't fall out so easy. So it takes a little bit more pressure to pull. Not so much that it's inconvenient, but it would be bad if it were a katana and you were using it for iaido. In this particular application, though, the intention is there. I can see the reason, and it's a little detail that I really appreciate about the sword. It's funny how something that would normally be negative is, in other cases, a positive. I wouldn't have expected it. But anyway, over here you can again see the top of the copper habaki right here. It makes out this kind of deep red color, and the habaki has these little rain patterns and things like that on it. A small detail, but I think it came out really, really nice. The seppa over here as well matches that deep orange color. They all go together in terms of coloration, like the kojiri. They all fit together pretty well. Shape-wise, the blade is an interesting shape, and this is where it departs a little bit from what I see in the show. It maybe is a little thicker at the base, probably about the same length, maybe a little bit longer. It's a little under 26 inches long, but this point has it reminds me of a yoroidoshi, yoridori like blade from the Koto period, like a tanto style blade. And they're not, I don't know if common would be the right word for it, but it's a shape that I see in some old Japanese style knives. And it's just got a lot of geometry and lines to it that you wouldn't otherwise expect in something that just basically looks like a sharp, pointy stick. It has a rounded back, which is really nice if you're drawing it, moving it, half sorting, something like that. It's very comfortable on the hand, and then kind of towards this top quarter of the blade right here, it turns into having two planes and then tapering down, kind of a slight drop point, and almost like a shobuzakuri blade, but not quite, because it's a bit of a drop point rather than like an iris leaf kind of thing into this very armor pointy, piercy tip right here. You can make out some of the characteristics of Rick Barrett's work here. It has a pretty bold hamon, though this one isn't in a finished polish. And so you can make out nice, clean, straight lines, but it was never polished. It's not as though the blade was neglected and fell into this state. It was just never finished. It was in a smith's polish, and it was brought to a kind of serviceable, pretty polish, but not an art polish. So depending on who you had polish it, maybe it would be another $1,000 or $2,000, something like that. And you could have it really zazzy, and all those kind of bold patterns and stuff would come out in any light. In this case, you can make out the details of the sword, the craftsmanship, but you don't necessarily have the same elegance as the full-on art polish. As it is, though, it's functional. You could swing it around, you could use it, and then perhaps have it polished at a later time rather than having a pristine blade that you were afraid to swing at anything. It's reasonably sharp. The lines on it are clean, but the shape is really what I think is cool. Has a very slight curvature to it, not very much at all. It's pretty much straight, and it's a shape that I've seen more in classic Japanese sword canes. There were a few of them. This is a bit thicker, but it has that profile to it, and it's just not something I've seen in the show. One side has what looks like a yokote that's been started on it, the other does not. So more polish work potentially is an option for this blade. But the point is, I like that it has something that I've seen in other kind of old Japanese style sword canes. I like that it has that shape. I like that it's made by Rick Barrett and the Mystery Man in Black, two very competent American craftsmen that are really, really good at what they do. I like the kind of zazziness. It's done up, within the same stylistic choices, but just a little different, a little special, a little bit closer to maybe what a sword cane would be, and some proportions that are maybe a little bit larger than would be in the Zatoichi style blade. I'm not sure how long they are, but again, this is just a little under 26 inches, so katana length, but not a long one, certainly. Anyway, really, really cool looking sword. It also, feel-wise, is quite excellent and kind of different as well. So it's just under 2 pounds, 1 pound, 14 ounces, and that's not a light blade considering the size that it's a shorter sword, and considering it doesn't really have any hilt furniture on it. It's under 2 pounds, so it's a light sword. It moves around like a light sword would, but it still has some heft despite its kind of small stature. And the point of balance is about 7 inches up from where a crossguard would be, which means it kind of has an authoritative presence in the cut. It feels like you could deliver a cut with some chutzpah behind it, like you could do something if you needed to. And it has the tip that really, I can move around, I can put it where I want it to go, and it has a pretty aggressive point to it, so it likely would pierce quite well as well. So anyway, interesting shape. I like the dynamics, and it's funny because normally on a katana, having a point of balance like 7 inches up the guard would leave me with probably an unsatisfied feeling, especially, it generally is a recipe for something I won't like. But in this case, it all works together, and I like these little details that are thought out. I like that the scabbard is a little tougher. Again, normally something I would complain about. In this case, it fits the task. It has a point of balance that's high, and something that normally would, in a blade a little longer, a little different, would be kind of a deal breaker. And in this case, it really suits the project and is more of a positive than a negative. So I like that it's kind of turned some of the tropes that I would normally harp on upside down a little bit. Anyway, so that's why, other than looking cool, some interesting facets of the blade that I really appreciate. Another thing, I like this spine that goes from a rounded spine. Usually there's 2 or 3 facets on it, and then it goes up and transfers and then has 2 planes on it. It's just a cool transition that I don't see on a lot of swords, and it's not a historic or anything like that, but it's different in this blade, and it's unique and special and cool. So you don't normally see Zatoichi style blades like this that are done up with zazz and by craftsmen of some renown and stuff like that. So I thought this was special for that reason alone, but all the little touches and stuff really, I think, make it something I like more than even the Howard Clark one that I did a few years ago. I like that it's a little shinier, a little zazzier, a little different, a little bigger as well. All of those things I think are pretty cool. Anyway, I will put details and all of that in the description down below, and you can take a look at that. If you have any questions, throw them in the commentary. Like I said, I am selling this, so in a couple weeks I'll put it up on eBay if it's not sold already, once I get to doing all the finished photography and all that kind of stuff for it. So if you see sold in the description, then it's gone, and that's kind of the plan. But otherwise, this is an example of what you could have made if you were to have Rick Barrett make a sword, or find a smith capable of doing it, since I don't think Rick really does a lot of sword making anymore. But these kind of projects are available to you. There's people that will make a sword like this, and you can have a scabbard made like this and get your own Zatoichi project going. So hopefully this gave you maybe some ideas or something to drool over. Anyway, that's all I've got for the video. Hopefully it's been interesting. As always, cheers, and thanks for watching.